My name is Steve Worcester, and I am with turningwood.com, and today what we're going to do is just make something. Stick around. It'll be a lot of fun. All right, when I say make something, literally that's what it is. Let's just make something. So in this case, it's going to be a practice piece, really. It's a little lidded jar, and we're not really concerned about the shape that much or any of it, the hollowing, because we're going to glue the top on anyway, because the tops get lost. So I used a spindle rough and gouge to take the edges off a piece of cherry. I put it into the chuck. And we're going to use a 5/8 detail gouge from Robust, and we're going to cut this down to take the divot out where the live center was. This is a Cindy Drozda detail gouge. It's a fantastic tool. Super sharp, very long bevel. Let's say you want the lid to be about that size. This is going to be the maximum size of our vessel. Can you hear the phone ringing? I like that. That looks very nice. Then what I want to do is make a tenon, a spigot if you will. So I'm taking this down with a thick parting tool. And I say thick because I'll use a thin parting tool for some of the other work. And I want to undercut this. So we'll need a little bit more clearance here to get our tool in at a sharper angle. Okay, let's get this a little closer to the 10 millimeters. And we can undercut this somewhat with this tool, with the parting tool. I have a trusty 10 millimeter wrench, oddly enough, not from a 71 Toyota Corolla. And I say that because I have lots of tools that say Toyota on that came in the, okay, that's a little bit too small, but that's okay. And I'll show you why in a bit. Okay, let's undercut this. Let's sander. Bring in some dust extraction. Okay, and what I want to do, I want to make sure that This is chip free because it is end grained, the grain going in this direction. You don't have a lot of support there, so it takes really clean cuts to make sure that it's going to be chip free. Let's go back here first with some 180. I didn't like the finish there on the top. That's good. I like that better. Now let's go up 240 and 320. Now to know exactly where I am, I'm going to take a pair of calipers as soon as I can figure out how to turn them on. And we're at, oh, actually 10.16. So we're at 10 on the nose. Drills tend to wobble a little bit. Okay, now we're going to part this off. We're going to use a thin parting tool here. This is a Chris dot tool. It's a great tool. You can still find them. I don't know if they're still around. All right, there we go. There's our top. It actually has a little crack in it. Now let's work on what the body is going to look like. What I want to do is have it a little flat on top. Okay, and I'm going to take this down to, I want to make it an innie. I want to make it a divot, or a, yeah. And so that way there is a place for the drill bit to go in. All right, and let's think about what we want our piece to look like, how big around, how long, what the overall shape is. You know, we want some nice curves. I want the top of the curve above in the top. I want the curve to apex in the top third or so. And I want this to be a little thinner on the bottom, not too thin. One idea for something like this is get some books on Asian pottery or Indian, Native American pottery, which they're definitely distinct styles. Okay, I want, that is pretty good shape for what I want. I have a little bit, oh, a little bit of tear out there. That's fine. We'll rework it. I have the height of my curve above the center line. That's important. You don't want to ever have anything dead center, with the exception of a full sphere. Okay, we're going to have to take some material out here. If you have the need to touch up, John Jordan Tools sells this wonderful slip, ceramic slip. I've had this baby for years. Okay, do a little shear scraping here. Okay, I'm going to switch to a bowl gouge for the shear scrape. And I'm going downhill because I have end grain. If I go uphill, I'm going to tear the fibers up. There's that phone again. All right. All right, that cleaned up pretty well. This is going to be the top right here. So you figure that we're going to go in here. I want to go about, and I'm going from this line, I want to go about here. Okay, I want that mark on the top. There it is, almost visible. Red was not the ideal color, nor was a Crazy Art crayon or whatever this is. Let's go with that. That's a little bit more visible. I'll have my assistant pick that up in a bit. We've found our center. Take our drill chuck out. Take it out. Take that out of here. Now knock the face off of this, so to speak. You get an idea of what that's going to look like. There's a little ridge right in here that's going to prohibit me from getting all the way down there. We can fix that in a bit though too. So if you didn't want to hollow this out, which is completely fine, then we'll get to parting this off, sanding it and parting it off in a bit. But for those who want to hollow it out, we want to bring this up, the tool rest up, to prohibit the tool from hitting the bottom of the hole. We're going to use these Laurent Niclot hollowing tools sold by us and Trent Bosch. We're that deep, so we still have some room there. Now if I look, and the bottom would be about right here, just before the lettering starts on the tool. Let's zoom in a little bit. All right. So what we're going to do is just clear out some material. That's a little high. We really want the cutting edge to be at center height on the hole. Okay, you don't want to get so caught up in the idea of hollowing that you get too much shavings in there, because when you cut them, the shavings are hot and they expand and they will wrap around the tool, which can cause havoc. So we take our Laurent mini air compressor, I think it says it on there somewhere, right there, and blow it out. Sure, you could do this with the air compressor, but it wouldn't be near as fun. once again. And repeat. So as you hollow this out, you're evacuating the inside of that chamber. So what that does allow you to do is take a little bit more time in between cleaning it out because there's more space in there. Remember, this is a subtractive process. Okay. And eventually you end up, or sometimes, let me say, sometimes you end up with a little point in the bottom. So what you need to do is find the tip of that point and kind of go up and down and side to side. Not too much. Now, initially, you're going to be really timid about, oh my goodness, I'm going to go through the side. That's okay. You just pick up another piece of wood and make another one. That's how you learn, by making something. See what I did there? So these are calipers specific to this endeavor. Well, I should say they're small calipers. So we put these in. We can see about here, we're over 1/4 inch thick. We're not bad down here. And as I rub this in there, there is kind of a lump. All right, so what we're gonna do is take this tool, which is a little small hook tool, and we're going to take and cut just to have a flat part here, or the straight part here. Because if I engage this tool here, I'm way off of center and it's going to rotate a lot. Now, if you hit the sides with the edge of the tool, the round part of the tool, you're okay. If you hit it with the tip, you're going to cut and make this hole bigger. We don't want to do that. Although we're going to glue it on anyway, so. I'm not a musician, but I know that is a note of some sort. All right, and repeat. So essentially you do cut, clean, cut, clean, cut, clean, cut, clean, and measure in between, obviously, until you're happy with the wall thickness. And by the way, don't breathe in when you're blowing it out. Now we can get some area in here, like the shoulder is under 1/4 inch also. So, you know, how thick you want it is kind of up to you and your personal preference and certainly your capabilities. Now this tool is really only good to about here. You could take it in further, but again, you get off axis and it makes it a little more grabby. That's a technical term. Okay. Delicious. A little bit more on the edge here. All right, that's probably, I like that. That's a good thickness. It's hearty. All right, now let's bring up some dust extraction. Do a little bit of sanding. So I'm going to start with somewhere around here. There we go. I'm going to start with a Galaxy 180 and then go 240, 320, 400. Air, please. So really what we want to do is make sure we get all any bumps out. And there's a bump in here. Why is there a bump in there? It's like a flat spot. So I can see that there is a little bit of a bump right here. So let's go down to 150 and see if that takes it out. I don't normally like to sand out bumps, but in this case, you know, we're just making stuff. Once you get more comfortable with the process, you can start refining. Take a look at this. So this is what I want. I want one continuous curve to here and then around. I don't really want this to be straight. I want it to bow out a little, which it is. So that's pretty clean. There is a little bit of a hump right here. Since it's end grain, you have to be really careful in using like a negative rake scraper or something, because it can tear it out pretty good. If it was a harder wood, it would be more amenable to doing that. Amenable. All right, let's see if we have any everlasting. There's a little bit of a scratch there. We're going to need to get that out. Right there on the edge. Yeah, you can see it. So we need to go back, sandpaper wise. Concentrate on that spot a bit. Yep. Hands are getting hot. Fingers are getting hot. Still a little bit there. We can keep going. All right, so I put a piece of a sanding pad underneath to shield my hand from some of the heat. Although, if you're creating heat, that can definitely lead to stress cracks in the wood. So when I cut this wood, it showed on the meter about 5.2 on the outside, which seems a little bit incredible given the humidity. It's been raining a lot. On the inside when I cut it though, it was 13%. So I have a grill on here on the dust extractor, which you can't see. Oh yeah, you can, right here. And there's a grill on it so that it won't eat the piece. All right, so that's what we're looking at so far. I like it. This session brought to you by Coke Zero. No, it isn't, I bought it myself. I would say hydration, but I don't know how hydrating anything with caffeine really is. So what I'm gonna do is I know this is where my bottom is. I'm probably going to clean that up a little bit once I cut down in here. I'm gonna have to remove some material here so that I have clearance to do a little bit of undercut with a gouge. But let's go ahead and remove a little bit of material, sneak up on what is our base here. Want to make sure you don't hit the piece. And this is a Cindy Drozda detail gouge, fantastic tool. Change the curve a little bit there. So, I like that, that works. And then we want to undercut right here. All right, now that I have my final piece, or I have my where the curve ends at the bottom, let's go ahead and sand that part. And I try and see if I can get away with a higher grit. Here's a 180. Brought to you by Mirka Gold. Okay, I actually like the way that the curve ends right there. That works for me. I like it, I like it, I like it. Blend it all in. 320. And then a little bit of 400 here. 400 action. This is Abranet. Abranet. You would think I would know this by now. 20 years, 25 years. Okay. That looks good. Off with the air. Again, using this gouge just as deftly as possible, because you don't want to push too hard and snap it off. You want to make sure that you cut it cleanly so you don't tear it out through the bottom too. Oops. So that just leaves a little bit on the bottom to sand out. Let me go ahead and take care of that. I'll be right back. So I have a .30mm you can't see that. I'm going to go back and forth a little. And what you want to do is make sure you don't hit these edges and ruin the lines that you've already, the crisp lines you put in there. Okay, for the final touch, we're going to use a little Mahoney's. It's going to darken up the end grain pieces quite a bit after a while. Slather that on pretty good. And then take a whoosh around. And you can see it already darkened up the bottom. Now you could make a jam chuck and clean up the bottom here. And let me show you how you would do that. All right, since I still have my piece of a piece of waste block in there. Oopsie. You have to undercut right there. And make this just a little bit tapered. And fuzzy, it's got to be fuzzy. I think that's about it. You want to get that pretty round, pretty true, and then bring this in close, and you're going to take really small bites. And then we just put a little bit, sand a tiny bit. You're wet sanding at this point. All right. And there we have it. I'll line that up. We have our little box, well, vessel. It's a vessel, very small vessel. Thanks for joining me. I hope you enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun. And stay tuned for next time. Like and subscribe if you will. Buy some sandpaper or tools from turningwood.com. We always like that. Thanks for joining me. Have a good day.